Well, good morning, church. We're going to look at 1 Thessalonians, and we're going to look at 4:9 through 12. And this will be the end of Paul's encouragement as Christian living. And we're going to start looking at the hope that we have that affects our Christian living, but this future things that we're going to look at. And that leads me into advertising this ladies' Bible study. Here's the book. It is Erwin W. Lutzer, The King is Coming, 10 events that will change our future forever. And the ladies, they'll be starting this Bible study. It'll be Wednesday nights from 6:30 until 8. So just an hour and a half. They'll be Zooming, as well as some of the ladies will be meeting there at the church. So if you have a desire for that, then contact Anna, and she will help put you in touch. The lady that'll be teaching it is Susie Fernandez. She's a sister of the gentleman that started and was the president of the seminary that I went to, and she's got a lot of the same passions and desires and understanding of the word that he did. And so I'm comfortable with her teaching this class, and I'd recommend it highly to you. And as we start getting into the future of this book, this First Thessalonians book that we're going to be looking at, I would recommend to you ordering our salvation, especially the future events, things that we're going to be going through. When we went through that at the beginning of the year, that end times, or the things that are still yet future in our salvation, will list out a lot of the things that Erwin goes through in this book, but I'll also rely on some of the things that we're going to be talking about here in 1 Thessalonians. So with that, I'm going to read again from 9 down to 12. Now concerning brotherly love, you have no need for anyone to write you, for you yourselves have been taught by God to love one another. For that indeed is what you are doing to all the brothers throughout Macedonia. But we urge you, brothers, to do this more and more, and to aspire to live quietly, and to mind your own affairs, and to work with your hands as we instructed you, so that you may walk properly before outsiders and be dependent on no one. Now, we've talked about this brotherly love, this thing that you were taught by God taught to do, that God changes your heart, teaches you from the scriptures, from the word of God, and teaches you, draws you to Christ and the gospel, and then you become an imitator of the Lord as you begin to follow him. And Paul says, and indeed you're doing that throughout all Macedonia, where they've become examples of what it is to believe, turning to God from idols, to serve him, and to wait from Jesus from heaven to come back. But not just that, the word is sounding forth from them. And so this loving other people is being situated in the gospel of Christ, becoming an example for what that looks like, people knowing your testimony, and you sounding forth the gospel to all people. That's what Paul is telling you brotherly love is. And then he adds on a few more things here. And aspire, that is to eagerly desire to live quietly. In other words, don't go out looking for a fight. Don't go out looking to lock horns with people. Don't do that. Live quietly. Rather not argue with people. Present the gospel for sure. The gospel is going to be controversial, especially in our culture today. But present the gospel, and if people just want to fight with you about it, bow out of the conversation. Now, if they're debating, if they're not understanding, then keep the conversation going. But if they are arguing, baiting you, and trying to harm you, then as Paul did when he was in Thessalonica, leave that conversation. Don't allow the attacks to make you one that attacks back. So you are aspiring to live quietly and to mind your own affairs. In other words, don't be a busybody in other people's lives. Don't be a gossip. Don't go from house to house and share all the dirt you know about people. I went over to somebody's house just the other day and they said, did you know this pastor fell? Did you know this thing? Did you know this thing happened? Did you know that thing happened? And I'm like, no, I don't. Quite honestly, I'm just busy and I have my head in the sand and I'm doing the things that I need to do. That's how you should be. Don't make yourself aware of the gossip that is out there. Unless you're going to them with the gospel to try to help them in their situations, there's no need for you to know. So he says, aspire to live quietly and to mind your own affairs and to work with your hands as we instructed you, to be diligently at work. Now this is profound because in the Greek culture, which this book is written into, they didn't work with their hands. It's kind of like the hard labor in America. Americans don't do that anymore. We co-opt that out, right? Paul is saying here, work with your hands. Roll up your sleeves and work hard, just as we instructed you. Why? So that you may walk properly before outsiders. They can see your hard work. They can see your love for them, your concern for them, your desire not to fight and quarrel with them, but to love them and present the gospel of Christ. And you're working with your own hands, not looking for anything from them, being dependent on no one. Church, these verses 9 down to 12, we need to memorize them and focus on how to be believers this way. And when we do, we will be operating in the gospel the way Paul says to do that. And this is paramount in our culture. This is timely for the culture that we're in. We're going to look at our hope as starting next week. So buckle down. We may be going slower than we have for the first part of this epistle, but buckle in. We're about to look at the future of what we have in store for us as Christ comes back. Talk to you later, church. Have a great day.